Why you should never argue and fight with a client. Here's an example. What if your client comes in and says, I just can't lose weight? You don't want to argue with them and say, you can lose weight, you're just doing it wrong. What if a client comes in and says, my shoulder hurts whenever I do this? And you say, well, dumbass, don't do that. That would be a bad idea. And the reason is you don't want to argue and fight with your clients or potential clients. You want to actually seek to understand. So if somebody comes in and says, when I do this with my shoulder, it hurts. You want to use their pain in order to create a solution. So an alternative approach would be, show me exactly how you move it when it causes you pain. And what that diagnostic does is it gives you information about exactly where in the joint or the range of motion it needs stability. If you're doing body work on a client and you touch them and they go, oh my God, that hurts so bad. You don't want to say, that doesn't hurt that bad. I can feel that it's not that tight. Something different might be, oh, that's okay. That's causing you that's causing a big response from you. You're making an observation, you're saying exactly what happens, but you're not arguing and fighting. When a client comes to you for service, you want to build bridges, not burn down the house. And you want them to feel safe and trusting with you. So the main goal as a trainer or as a body worker would be to build the trust and respect with the other person in order to get them to trust your solutions and recommendations. If the person says, I just can't lose weight, and you say, you're eating too much, of course you're not going to lose weight. Instead of tackling and confronting the fact that they are overeating, maybe they're not ready to face that reality yet. So some other service to that individual might be, okay, well, let's look at a couple of the support systems that you're using. Are you going to bed on time? Are you drinking enough water? So try to find areas where you can create movement forward instead of butting heads with them and making them feel wrong or bad or anything that you could add to this human's experience that's just going to add drama to the problem. Your role and my role, as I have come to identify it, is that of a guide. Our purpose is to understand where they're coming from. And it's not to argue and fight with them. It's not to be critical. It's not to judge them harshly. It's actually to have empathy. When the person says, this is the heaviest I have been, my life is just terrible, you don't want to tell them at that point, your life doesn't sound that terrible. I mean, you're healthy, you live in a first world country, you have money to pay the bills and to hire me. I don't know how bad your life is. Instead, you might want to seek to understand, it does sound pretty challenging the way that you're putting it. Because it is the way that they are framing it that is creating the drama they're responding to. So in the end, the theme of the story is, don't argue and fight with the client. If you argue and fight, you burn the bridge. And what you really want to do is build a house. You want to build a bond with the person that connects the two of you together. And then you can start to test the waters in some baby steps. So when the person says, I just can't stop eating what's in my fridge, instead of saying, stop fucking buying all the junk food and you'd have no problem, you might say, all right, why don't we start with just writing down everything that you're buying and write maybe just a scale of 1 to 10 how important that food is to you. Or just write next to it whether it's a want or a need. And then if you read their list and it says need next to ice cream, and you ask them, hey, so we're just going through the list, just checking it out. All right, so you want the beer. I understand that. Yeah, who doesn't want to kind of kick back a little bit? but you need the ice cream? I'm not quite connecting. And they might tell you, look, life is really stressful right now. It's really difficult. It's very hard. I need it. Then you can really get an understanding for, all right, so what's the payoff with the ice cream? Is it that it's a sweet? Is it that it's a treat? Is it that it's somewhat not normal for you to have? Is it something to have in the fridge that you have a go-to when you're feeling bad physically? And then you can start to surf for or seek to find other solutions that fit within that category. So don't argue and fight with the person. That's the moral of the story. It's seek to connect with them, have empathy for them, be their guide, and you don't need to demonstrate authority right away by telling them critically, don't do it. You have to earn the right to be heard. And that comes from having some empathy for whatever it is that is their truth at that moment. It's their belief, it's their truth. They say, my knee is terrible. It's always bad, it always gives out. You don't say, for 6 months you haven't complained about it. It's fine. You would say, that sounds like that's really tough. And it sounds like the knee pain you're experiencing now connects you with other times when you have experienced knee pain. And I can understand that. When it happens once, it connects you with all of the pain that you have ever experienced in that knee joint. Why don't we see what causes the pain when you move it, and then we can use that as a diagnostic for movements to create specifically for you in order to start to strengthen around the knee, so at least in that specific movement, there's no more pain or discomfort. Well, that person feels validated and affirmed for their pain. They don't feel wrong for experiencing pain or having the experience of life. And they might actually even feel supported in having their pain. Sometimes we just need somebody to witness what we have so we can let go of it. So somebody can say, oh, that does suck. And you go, yeah. So what should we do to solve it? And you change their energy around it. Because really it's about the change of the energy in the other person that you're seeking. The point of your communication is the response in the energy of the other person. That's your goal. Your goal is to bond with the person so you can guide them to healthier pastures, right? The point of listening to them is to help filter what's noise and what is applicable to make decisions for their treatment plan. But you got to listen to them. You got to let them know it's important for them to talk to you, because that's how you're going to build a bond with somebody you can build with over time. You want to have a client for 5 years, a decade, 15 years, or 2 decades, don't you? Well, you have to earn that right. And it begins with not arguing and not fighting. And it starts with having empathy, understanding it, and demonstrating that you hear what they have to say. If you like this, tune into my YouTube channel. Check out my website, dominicsessa.com. Check out my Instagram, and stay tuned.